Hello! If you're new, my name is Jo, and I am learning languages, specifically Spanish, and this is my quarterly goals update for the first quarter of 2022. So I'm going to have my goals for Spanish for 2022 up here, and we're just going to look at how things went. We're going to start with the good and trickle down to maybe some things that didn't happen. First of all, listening. I have really invested a lot more time into listening, and I'm definitely seeing some improvements from that. It is very, very slow. My listening comprehension is definitely much, much weaker than my reading comprehension, but I am getting much more comfortable listening to things. I've made a commitment to follow through with audio-only content, because if I have the option to just read it, I will. I have been pushing through the discomfort on that, and it is getting better. Your brain doesn't want to do hard things, so at the very beginning of doing something very difficult for your brain, you have no attention span for it, no endurance, and I am kind of building that up a little bit more. And I'm actually mostly sort of starting to find it enjoyable to do listening only, which I really wasn't prior to this year. So I think that is a big step forward, and honestly, mostly that has happened in the month of March. So I do think that we have made a little bit of a breakthrough there, and hopefully that will continue. Reading. Books have been on a little bit of a hiatus because I have been in a reading slump in general, but I did read one book in January, and I am in the process of reading another one. I started some books and put them down in this quarter as well, and so at some point I'm sure I will come back to those, but they just weren't the vibe, you know? The thing that did really work out this quarter was reading articles. I have read quite a few articles. I use the app Flipboard on my iPad, and I use the app Newsela, hopefully, on my phone. That has been really, really great. It's, easy, quick and easy to do, much less commitment than embarking on an entire book, and it's also, varied topics. You can read about absolutely anything, so if you are getting bored with something, you can pick a totally different topic for your next article. Writing, I have written 2 journaly posts and a couple YouTube comments. Nothing major. I really haven't been putting a lot of effort into writing this quarter, but I also haven't done nothing. This one, we will talk about this going forward as well, but I'm not really worried about this at this stage. I don't think that my time is best spent trying to write right now, to be honest. So if I feel like writing something, or if I get comments or want to comment on a video, then I definitely will do that, and I think that is a great exercise. But I'm not mad that I haven't done more of this. Now we get to speaking. Oh, speaking. I am possibly having a change of heart about this goal, actually. We will see how it progresses throughout the year. Maybe this will be totally fine. I'm obviously not taking it off the list of goals. But at this stage, again, same with writing, I don't know that speaking is really a good use of my time, because I'm not in a situation where I need to speak. I'm not in another country. I'm not trying to make my way in the world using this language. My big reason for adding this goal was that I did not want speaking to become this big, scary future thing. I didn't want to be afraid of speaking. I didn't want it to be looming in the future, because I kind of mostly am following the input method from Stephen Krashen and Steve Kaufman. And they and other linguists and, people who talk about this topic of language acquisition don't really feel generally that you need to speak early unless it is something that motivates you. Unless you find it inspiring, it really doesn't have a lot of benefit as far as the actual acquisition of the language. I totally get that speaking is very, very motivational for a lot of people. They really, really like language exchanges and talking to people, and that's something that really inspires them to keep going with the language. And if that's the case, then I think that's great. That is not really the case for me. I look forward to the day that I can speak well with native speakers and obviously travel and use the language and write things online or whatever. But this is not that day, and I just don't find myself being inspired by the prospect of speaking, and I just don't think that it's the best use of my time right now. I listened to a podcast from Ollie Richards, who is also sort of mostly in the input method circle, and he was talking about whether you needed to speak early and whether it was good to speak early, and he basically said the same thing. If you are someone with a lot of social anxiety and you find a lot of hurdles aside from the actual use of your language attached to speaking, then it's probably going to be more effort and more stress and everything than it's worth. For now, I don't think, I was talking about doing maybe italki lessons. I did sign up for a local Zoom Spanish exchange, but I went to one, and I don't know if I'll go to others. I may, but I'm not going to put pressure on myself to. And as you can guess from this, the DELE exam is also not currently on the horizon or anything I'm actively working towards. Also, a YouTuber that I really, really enjoy watching named Emmy Grace posted a video about her experience taking the DELE exam, and she just mostly found it an incredibly draining and demotivating experience, and her Spanish is far, far, far better than mine. And so I just kind of was not that I will never do it, but I don't think that I want to use it as a study thing. I think I want to get my Spanish to a level where taking an exam like that would be relatively easy. Again, all of this could change. I could have some kind of incredible breakthrough and in the month of June decide I'm signing up for it, but I really don't see that happening. So my general feelings on how this quarter went are that I think I was much better at naturally incorporating Spanish into my daily life, which has in turn, I think, increased the total amount of time that I have spent on it. I was pleasantly surprised that my daily average for Spanish since I downloaded the Polylogger app is at 35 minutes a day, which includes, taking breaks for vacations and stuff like that, and just times when I wasn't studying. And so that's actually a lot better than I expected. I obviously would like that to go up, but still, this quarter, particularly the month of March, I felt like I was really good about, even if it was just listening for 20 minutes in the car or whatever. There were very few days that I did nothing. However, I will say I have greatly decreased the amount of time that I am actively studying or sitting down to read or sitting down explicitly to do something other than watching shows or something in Spanish. And I can tell that I haven't been doing that as often. My reading speed has definitely kind of regressed a little bit. My attention span is not as good in reading, and I'm not really getting those experiences of just sitting down and being in a flow state with Spanish. To some extent, I guess if I'm watching a show, I can get that way, but I want to get that back with reading also. I think if I could get both of these things going at the same time, if I could be naturally incorporating it every single day and getting a lot of just time with the language, but also sitting down for dedicated chunks of time, I think that then we would be on our way to some really, really good progress. So for Spanish, my quarter 2 goals are to continue with lots of audio-only content. I want to keep watching shows without subtitles. I have found that something that's working well for me right now, we will see if that continues, is rewatching things I've already seen in English with the Spanish dub on and no subtitles, because then I already know the story. I think dubbing is a lot of times clearer than native content, and yeah, it just works really well. I am halfway through the first Harry Potter audiobook, and I would like to, in quarter 2, finish the first 3. And I would like to get through a couple more books, hopefully finish the Hunger Games series at the very least. I have one and most of the other one, probably 70% of the second one to read. Obviously, if I can get through more books than that, then that's great, but that's kind of the goal. I like to keep reading articles, hopefully once a week. I don't think that that's unreasonable, so maybe like 12 articles in the quarter. And the thing that I would like to do to practice my speaking is I want to read aloud a lot and start doing some kind of shadowing or parroting where I'm practicing my accent and my pronunciation and everything. Once I am comfortable enough in Spanish to just start speaking, I want my pronunciation and accent to be good, you know? And so I think I'm going to achieve that through reading aloud, probably recording myself reading aloud and listening to it so I can see what I actually sound like and make modifications from there, and then also parroting back native content. So the last topic to address in this video is, am I adding languages? Yes, I am. In March, I started studying American Sign Language again. This is something that I studied a long time ago, actually, and I have forgotten almost everything. I can recognize a lot of signs, but I don't necessarily remember what they are, and even if I do remember what they are, producing signs is very non-existent other than the very basics. And so I am working on that again. Although it is absolutely a language, obviously, the experience of studying it is pretty different from the experience of studying most other languages. So that one I don't really consider like conflicting in any way with my Spanish or anything like that. The only thing is obviously the amount of time dedicated to it is time that I'm not spending on Spanish, but that's fine. I am not planning to spend enormous amounts of time on it. It's just like a couple times a week I'd like to review signs and learn some more, and that's pretty much it. I have a sister who is fluent in ASL, so I have someone I can practice with. I follow a lot of deaf content creators, and I will be finding more to watch for comprehension, and yeah, that's pretty much my low-key ASL study plans. But I am also going to be dabbling in other languages, particularly probably Korean. I have been missing studying Korean, and I've realized that I have already forgotten almost everything that I learned. I think it was October when I studied Korean for a week, and I think I've already forgotten a lot of that. It's not that I think I'm going to make a lot of progress in both Korean and Spanish, because I'm definitely not. I think if I ever really want to learn Korean, I am going to have to take a break from other languages, or at least put them on the back burner, and very intensively study Korean for some amount of time. And I'm not prepared to do that right now, but I would like to just kind of be inching my way forward. And I will talk about this in my planning video, but I also just want to have contact with other languages, like watch shows or listen to music in other languages. I just love languages, and so while focusing on exclusively Spanish has been very, very good for my learning Spanish, it hasn't necessarily always been great for just my inherent motivation, because I am so motivated by listening to things from other cultures, seeing other physical locations, even if I'm watching shows, hearing people talk in other languages. I just love that, and obviously if I'm exclusively focusing on Spanish and most of the content that I'm consuming is in Spanish, that is kind of lost. So I just want to add enough of that back in for it to be inspirational for me, and yeah, that's the plan. Hopefully it will actually help my Spanish, and even if it doesn't, I think it will still be worth it. So that is my quarter 1 wrap up and review. I don't know which one is getting edited and posted first, but I am also doing some light language planning, some long-term thinking, and routine building with a Notion template from one of my favorite YouTubers, Anna Lanks. So if that is up, I will put the link, but if not, then look for that very soon. Thank you.